Hi everyone, I'm new to Booktube, so I decided to make the newbie tag. I found some questions on the internet. Let's try to answer them. This is my cat Toby. He self-invited himself into this video. First question, why did you start this channel? I started this channel to talk about books and maybe occasionally movies and storytelling in general. I read a lot of books when I was younger, then I kind of stopped. I was just busy with other stuff, and then during the pandemic I started to watch a lot of videos about books, and I liked the idea of reading more. I started to buy a lot of books, but I kind of struggled to go back into reading, like I was too distracted. But I started writing. I was writing some fantasy story, and I was like, I mean, what kind of a dumb writer I am if I don't even read anything. So I bought even more books, and I just kept buying books without reading them. But then maybe a year and a half ago, I kind of found the book that helped me go back into reading, like that book that I actually finished. And since then, I gradually started to read more and more and more. And I felt like if I make my own channel about books, that will give me more motivation to keep reading, and also when I read something I really want to talk about it. So I'm just trying it out and see how it goes. So what are some fun and unique things you can bring to YouTube, to Booktube? The unique thing is my opinion. I think everybody has their own opinion based on their experience, based on their background. About fun things, I don't know, I had a lot of ideas, like what kind of videos I can make and blah, blah, blah. But then I got stuck in this phase of, shall I do this kind of video, that kind of video? And that went on for like months. That's why when I started the Way of Kings, I was like, I'm just gonna grab my camera and just film something, just to get used to the whole thing, to see what I'm good at, what I'm bad at. So I want to find the personality of this channel by experimenting rather than trying to force myself into any kind of a box. My idea is to try different things and see what sticks, and hopefully something good will come out of it. If not, I'll just film the cat sleeping. What are you most excited about this new channel? I'm excited about just starting this because I've been thinking about it for such a long time. And then I just want to talk about stories and about books because I really like talking about it. I like discussing storytelling and characters, and I love this topic. I'm very passionate about storytelling, and I have been for such a long time. Even when I was not reading books, I was watching a lot of movies. I'm just trying it out, okay? I don't want to stress myself too much because this should be for fun. That's it. Why do you love reading? Oh, well, escapism? Okay, the truth is, I love reading for various reasons, and some of them are obvious, like exploring different worlds, escape reality. You know, that's the general things. But I also find comfort and inspiration in stories. For example, when I was reading The Way of Kings and I see characters like Kaladin, who is struggling with some issues, let's say, but he's persistent and try to find purpose and try to choose the right thing, blah, blah, blah. When you meet those characters struggling, and it motivates me to keep going. And I think that literature, it's not just escape, but it's kind of a safe space where you can reflect on reality. You can be in a fantastical world with fantastical beings, but they have a very human struggles. You can basically learn from them how to deal with life, like how to navigate difficulties, how to navigate your relationship with other people, how to navigate your own feelings. We as humans are trying to communicate things to each other that cannot be said straightforward way in a conversation, but they can be communicated through art. A good story, it's not just entertaining, it's not just an escapism, but it communicates some truths about what it is to be a human, to live in this life, to struggle, to overcome difficulties, to keep going, and so on and so on. So I really think the great stories help us reflect on our life, and they can also entertain us. And sometimes we end up crying for some fictional person, and we're like, why did I do this to myself? But I don't know, guys, it's fun. I like it. Why do you like it? What books or series got you into reading? You wouldn't know. When I was very young, I didn't like reading at all. I don't know why. But then actually one of the first books I read was Star Wars books. I watched The Return of the Jedi first. Then I found The Empire Strikes Back, and then I couldn't find New Hope. So I found the book in the library, and I remember I read it with my lightsaber, on the light of my lightsaber. So I actually experienced New Hope as a book. I think the book that really got me into reading was a historical novel. It was actually very dramatic story. Everybody died and it was super sad, but I loved it. Then I read Dune when I was 14, maybe a bit too young for it, but I really liked it. And I think because I was a fan of Star Wars and I was looking for science fiction, so I read Dune. I super liked it. So I kept reading like science fiction and fantasy. And then I found The Lord of the Rings. And I think The Lord of the Rings was the book that really changed me as a reader. Lord of the Rings is one of those books that are fundamental to me. What questions would you ask your favorite YouTubers? I don't know. What would I ask them? How do you manage those big libraries? I don't know where to fit my books. I have many questions. Maybe I would ask them what made them join YouTube and how was the experience for them. When did you start reading? Okay, I told you already. Actually, my grandma would always read to me when I was a child. So I grew up with fairy tales constantly being fed to me. I know so many fairy tales. The switch between the fairy tales and the actual literature was a bit of a process for me because I just couldn't focus to read too much on my own. I would read the books for school, but that's it. I wouldn't read outside of school until I started to read Star Wars books, and then that historical novel that I read that historical novel for school, but I got so into it that I started to read more after that. We will have this super long list to read classics, and I'll just eat that up. I remember reading Count de Monte Cristo in like 3 days, no sleep. I was obsessed. So yeah, I think I started reading a lot when I was a teenager, but then I had this huge gap and I went back into reading like 1.5 years ago. I mean, seriously, like more than before. But very gradually, like 1 book, 2 books. I am not the kind of reader that reads 100 books a year, okay? I'm just freshly returned to reading person, and I'm doing this channel to discuss the books that I read and to share the excitement about it. But I don't think I'm on the level of the other YouTubers. Okay, I have not read so many books yet, but I am excited about reading them. There's so much I want to read, like V. Schwab, I have bought her books. I bought Brando's, almost all his books. Also, I got some romantasy, I got some historical, some literary fiction, sci-fi, all those books that I've heard from others on YouTube. I think I have like 40 books to read. So next year, I hope I will be able to read more. Where do you read? In my room, mostly at night. I'm not very good with reading in public. I just get distracted very easily. I prefer to read inside my house. Yeah. What kind of books do you feel like reading? Any book that might be interesting. I really love fantasy. I really love sci-fi. But I also like historical fiction. I also like romance. I probably would like some good thriller or mystery. At some point I was reading a lot of Sherlock Holmes, for example. That's because of the BBC TV series that got me into Sherlock Holmes. Now I am deep into the Cosmere, so I think I'm gonna be stuck there for a bit. And then I want to read V. Schwab, and I just want to read some of those romantasy books to see if any of them is actually good. I like the idea of it. I like fantasy with more romance in it. But we'll see if I find anything that I actually like, because I don't like when one is on the expense of the other. Also, I like the fairy tale vibes. As I told you, I grew up with fairy tales, so I like fairy tale vibe books. You know, it just depends on the story. Sometimes, like the story that got me back into reading was again a historical fiction. So there is something about historical fiction that I really like. But I will talk about this book maybe another time. What does my book collection look like? I would love to show you, but right now my books are spread around the house. I put 3 books here and 5 books there, and I'm now trying to rearrange them to get them all together. I want to buy a proper bookshelf, but that's gonna be very later on in the year because yeah, it requires me to rearrange the whole room and it's not so easy. But yeah, I will maybe make another video, show you all the books I got. Quite a lot. I think that's it. That's my introduction video. I know it's amazing, right? I was so eloquent. Everything I said was absolutely perfect, right? I'm so unique and different. Like, oh my god, guys, there's nobody like me on the internet. No. Anyway, I'm excited to be on YouTube. I hope we can have some cool discussions about characters and stories and cats. Thank you, Toby, for being in this video. He's reading all these books, right? His favorite character is Kaladin. Bye bye!